Hi, everyone. This is Denise Gwen with another snippet of writing advice. My first snippet of writing advice, actually a writing tip, was let it sit. And I kept it very short because I wanted to be able to put it out on YouTube as a short video. And I'm kind of toying with the format of these videos. And I recorded one last night, which is technically and officially writing tip number 2, let the story find you, and trying to figure out how I really want to approach these videos. But because right now I'm kind of between stories. No, not really. I'm actually working on a story called, well, an earlier working title was The Slaughterhouse Orphans. And I told my husband that title, and he laughed his ass off. Yeah, he thought it was funny. He's like, yeah, I don't think that's a great book title. Well, that's the work in progress that I'm working on right now, and that I referenced in my video yesterday when I talked about how I'm approaching it again, and I'm kind of sort of rewriting it. And that's along the lines of my theme of let the story find you. So, to go back to lesson number 1, let it sit. That's really good advice because no matter how far along you are in your edits, whenever you come back to your writing, if you don't have time to give it time to sit, you could literally finish a story on November 30th and start back at chapter 1 on December 1st. And when you come back to chapter 1, after having gone through the entire manuscript, you will be amazed at all the things you notice that you didn't notice earlier. It's amazing. It's really, it's part of the fun of the editing process. And my advice, my first piece of writing advice to let it sit is kind of odd when you think about the fact that when I first heard that piece of writing advice from my sophomore high school advanced English teacher, Mr. John Lair, at the time that I was in high school, I never had time to let things sit. Heck no. I was on the bus doing my math homework in first class health period. I was finishing my paper for Mr. Lair, or finishing my vocabulary words for Mr. Lair, or finishing up a science report. I never had time to let things sit. In fact, one time, I think it was my senior year, a friend and I were complaining in math class about how, oh my God, teachers, could you please give us a little bit of a break? Because I was on the gymnastics team, she was active in theater, and it's like, oh my God, every teacher in every class, every day was piling on the homework. So I did not have the luxury of being able to let things sit when I was in high school. I do have that luxury now. And as I keep saying, whenever you come back to your writing, no matter how much time you've had to let it sit or not sit, when you come back to it again, you will come back to it with a fresh eye. And you will see things that you didn't see earlier, and you will be absolutely amazed at some of the changes you're able to make when you come back to it again. You have to let it sit for however so long as you can manage it. And as in the case with my story, Goddess, which earlier was Giantess, the basic core of the story stayed in place. The story of statues coming to life during the transit of Venus across the sun during a magical night to help save the life of an artist who has lost the will to live. But my protagonist has changed completely. When I first envisioned Goddess, which I called at the time Giantess, the heroine of my story was a college girl named Mona. with suicidal ideation. And when I came back to the story 10 years later, I changed the title. It was Goddess now, not Giantess. Even though the Lady Venus in the Showalter Fountain is a giantess, but then so is Lady Victory at the top of the sailor and soldier's monument in Indianapolis. And the Genius of Water, who stands regally above Central Fountain Square. Okay. And just your perspective on a story changes. And that's why it's important to let it sit. So that's my writing piece of advice. It's accompanying writing piece of advice number 1. So this could be called 1A, let it sit, appendix. Yeah. Does that help? Does that make it clear? Does that clarify it? Yeah. Writing tip number 1A, the appendix, to let it sit. I'm Denise Gwen. Thank you for listening.